Okay. So I can bring to you the information of what's happened, and we know what's happened. And what's happened is that the Fed has decided that they're going to pump more false cash into the market. They are going to buy up debt. And buying up debt is not necessarily the answer to the problem. I don't see how anybody believes that it is the answer to the problem. And so what we've done is we've asked Gerald Celente to join us. We're trying to reach out to his people. Now, apparently we're having some problems with the phone connection, so we're trying to get it dialed up right so we can bring Gerald Celente on. But, again, I don't have answers to a lot of things, but I have a lot of common sense. And if you think about if you have something of value, its value decreases when you have a lot more of that. Okay, was it all squared away? Okay. The TrendsJournal is something we recommend. We always do. He is one of the biggest hits we have as a guest on the show because no one speaks more sincerely and honestly about what they feel without concern about hurting someone's feelings, just giving you the truth. The common person just trying to make a living and hold on to some of their assets. Gerald Celente joins the show. Mr. Celente, welcome back.
Oh, Mike, thanks for having me.
Okay, when you saw what the Fed was doing today, was it a surprise to you that they said they were going to buy $40 billion worth of mortgage debt per month for the foreseeable future?
Well, I was on your show saying that they were going to do it.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how much they would do. We have a feature when you subscribe to the TrendsJournal, Trends in the News. And for several months I've been saying that before the election happens, watch out for QE3. This is an old story. They did it under Bush when Greenspan was in charge of the Fed. Bush won. So, yeah, we saw it coming. There's no way out of this. Every card that they have played, it has been a losing card. They're dumping all of this digital money into the system to prop up a failing economy. And I want to make this really straight so everyone understands exactly what's going on. This money that the Federal Reserve is putting into the economy is not going into boosting the economy. It's going into the pockets of the Goldman Sachs gang, the Merrill Lynch mob, the J.P. Morgan Chase criminal operation. All of this money that the Federal Reserve is putting in, and the same thing over in Europe, the ECB, is going into the pockets of the bankers. That's all this is. And what they're also doing, and you're in Arizona, you have a lot of retirees out there. They're keeping interest rates at near zero, and they're saying they're going to do that until about 2015. That means in the old days, when you had some extra money, you'd put it in the bank. There was a word that they used to have in America. It meant savings. I have savings. Now, you put your money in the bank. It's not savings. They give you nothing for it. But here's what they do. They take your money, and then they loan it out. Hey, you're late on that credit card? How about 30% interest rate? That's what's going on. And look at the facts. And I've been saying this. I'm on public saying it over and over and over. Look at gold prices. Today they went up $35 an ounce.
Wow. It's incredible to me. I looked at the stock market was up 206 points today. For a person like for the guy driving home that doesn't do this for a living like you do, when you look at these numbers jump like this because of this information, are we setting ourselves up for the same thing we saw a couple of years ago where it's inflated so that the rich guys can buy in and then when it gets to a peak, they're going to sell off and we're going to see another big sharp drop where the people holding a 401k are going to pay for it again?
Look at what's going. This isn't a stock market. Who owns the corporations in the United States? It's not like the old days. Hedge funds, private equity groups. They're the ones that own it. Look what I was in Germany recently. The DAX, their stock market. 80% of it is being traded on high frequency trades. The same thing in the United States. This is a casino that's running wild. What's going to happen is there's going to be a crash. They are doing everything in their power to keep it from crashing. So they're pumping all this money into it. But now let's look at the subtext beyond the economy. We have a world war beginning. These riots that are going on in Yemen, that are going on in Tunisia and in Egypt, the massacre of the U.S. ambassador in Libya, it had nothing to do with that film. That's like saying World War I, little girls and boys, began when they assassinated the Archduke Ferdinand in Sarajevo. That's only the match in the box of matches that's going to light the fuse. This whole thing is unraveling. I've said this before. Follow the timeline. The crash of 1929, the Great Depression, currency wars, trade wars, world wars, the panic of '08, the Great Depression / recession, currency wars, they're happening all over. You're hearing Romney, everybody talking about the yuan, the real, on and on, how they're devaluing it. Trade wars, they're heating up. The world war is in front of us. The Middle East is exploding. 1.5 million people took to the streets in Barcelona on Tuesday. Hey, you didn't see that on Piers Morgan?
No, as a matter of fact, none of that is being talked about, especially in the terms that you speak about this. Let me ask you one last question before I get to this news break. I always ask you what you do and what the common person should do. But when this happened, does this change what you do based on with this information that the public knew about today? Does it change what you do?
No. You go back to our last week's Trends in the News, and I said it publicly, I'm buying gold.
And that pretty much is a stand. I know you don't give advice to people, but that's what you do.
I just tell them what I do.
Yeah.
I buy gold and I buy silver. And this is not my strategy, but I'll tell you the best one that was been told to me as far as I see it, again, without giving advice. A good friend of mine, every month, any extra money he has, he buys a little bit of gold and a little bit of silver. A little bit of gold and a little bit of silver. Anything he could afford. And that is what I have begun to do. But on Friday, a couple of weeks ago, a week or so ago, I said it on our Trends in the News feature. I'm into gold. I'm going. This thing is collapsing. They're going to do anything they can to hold it up. This money is not worth, as I said, the digital paper it's not printing on. They're just creating debt. That's all this is. But you put it... America's public enemy number one. You know who it is? Osama Ben Bernanke. The man. Oh, yeah, I'm not serious.
I know you are. I know you're serious.
The man that has robbed our future by stealing all of our money and giving it to his banker buddies, everybody out there in Arizona that's living on their retirement. And in the old days when I grew up, people used to put money in the bank to get interest on it so they could pay their debt. They can't do that anymore. And I'll tell you, the biggest tragedy of this country are these property taxes and how they're robbing people of their homes, of what they have as they're going into their retirement age, and they can't pay their property tax. And you know why they can't pay it? Because Osama Ben Bernanke, public enemy number one, has brought interest rates down to zero, so they get nothing. They get nothing from the banks. Yep. On their money going into the banks. And what they're also doing is they're trying to force people to play the rigged game in the stock market that's being run by the high-frequency traders.
I want people I have to go to a news break, but I want people to be able to go to the Trends Journal